What Thunder fans are suggesting right now is just blasphemous, as it's been announced the Phoenix Suns are accepting trade offers and calls regarding Kevin Durant to see if there's anything that they can get back in return. And if Presti is actually calling and trying to figure out if Kevin Durant's available for a trade, this would be the worst decision he ever made in his entire career. And there are multiple reasons why. The contract, what he did to the city with how he left, how much we're going to have to give up just to get Kevin Durant back in return, and would he even mesh well on this team whatsoever? It's just, there's too many X factors when it comes to making this sort of trade compared to trading for someone like a Cameron Johnson, Bobby Portis, even a Chris Paul or Colin Sexton. There's just so much more at stake if you trade for a guy like Kevin Durant, who's one of the top paid players in the NBA. So we're going to break it all down here, dive deep into it here on Thunder Digest. Before we get into all that, if you don't know who I am, I'm Bryson Akins, and this is Thunder Digest. We're currently at 2,680 subscribers, trying to reach 3,000 as soon as possible. I know we can hit it by the end of February. So if you enjoy what we're putting out here and you want to stay up to date with your Oklahoma City Thunder news before the deadline, after it, on this championship run, before we win the finals, you want to do so by hitting that subscribe button and staying up to date here with Thunder Digest as we cover everything. Now, with that out of the way, let's cover everything that we know so far regarding Kevin Durant, these trade, talks going on, how they're accepting calls, and this is all we know right now, all right? This is what we got. The Suns are fielding trade calls for Kevin Durant per Jake L. Fisher. So they're fielding them. Doesn't mean they're actually looking to trade him, all right? They're just kind of seeing like, look, what offers can we get? What's out there? What are we looking for? Could we get a ton of picks in return? Could we get some young guys in return? Because it's still set on them that they want to pair Jimmy Butler with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and trade Bradley Beal away, as he's the big one that could match Jimmy Butler's contract over there, whether that's a straight up 2-team deal, player swap, or a 3-team deal that gives Miami some more stuff and also sends Bradley Beal to a team other than Miami that he'd actually want to play for, as he does have a no trade clause that he hasn't waived quite yet. And we're only 72 hours away from the deadline actually being passed. So there's just a lot going on right now regarding the Phoenix Suns, what they need to do for trades. But them taking calls on Kevin Durant comes as a surprise a little bit, all right? I wasn't expecting this whatsoever. And there's also some other things that we do know regarding them taking calls, like this right here from Bright Side of the Sun. They covered the Phoenix Suns there. One of our guys over at Celtics Digest and Suns Digest, Bruce Velez, writes for them, so go check out his stuff over there. But Phoenix continued to signal that it does not plan to move Durant before the deadline, but the Suns are believed to be listening at the very least to various teams' pitches. Durant, meanwhile, is said to be aware of all this. The Suns do have a level of interest in Jonathan Kuminga of the Golden State Warriors. So a Durant-Warriors reunion would be very interesting to see. However, the Warriors, they've already said no to trading pods for anyone. They've already said no during the summer that they're not going to trade Kuminga. They're very high on them. But they're kind of botching a bunch of trades right now because they could have got Zach LaVine as well and Nikola Vucevic, but they didn't want to trade away some of these guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, all these guys. They're like, look, we don't want to trade them away. Can we work out a different deal? It's just interesting to kind of look at it where the Warriors are these teams interested in him right now, but yet they are flopping at the deadline. They are not doing anything. And I do think Oklahoma City is in a prime position to make a move. It would probably be in their best interest to not make a move if I'm going to be speaking honest from the heart, looking at analytics standpoint, but also looking at that standpoint as well. It makes sense to go get a guy like Cameron Johnson or even a backup point guard like Chris Paul or Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton's a great defensive guard, all right? Chris Paul is one of the best playmaking guards we have ever seen in the history of the NBA. So having those guys coming off the bench, it'd be nice. Cameron Johnson or even a Bobby Portis starting at the 4 for the Oklahoma City Thunder would be great. Great three-point shooting threat. Bobby Portis is a better defensive player than Cameron Johnson, but Cameron Johnson is a much better offensive player than Bobby Portis. I just think those trades work out better for the Thunder if they are going to make a trade. If Presti is actually calling Kevin Durant, someone needs to go in his office, slap him in the face, and be like, what are you thinking? Do you not remember what he did to the organization when he left? Do you not think anything about how it's going to look like matching up contracts? And I've conjured up some trades that would be the most realistic thing that we could see for Kevin Durant. And we'll go ahead, dive into those right now, because it's kind of absurd looking at how much we'd be giving up. So the Thunder would be getting Kevin Durant in return. And then this is the first one I came up with, all right? You barely see it, but it's Isaiah Hartenstein Kenrich Williams, Ousmane Dieng, 2025 first round pick via Miami, 2027 first round pick via Denver. Miami's top 14 protected, lottery protected. Denver is top 5 protected. They're going to be a better team. They might even be a lottery team that year. Miami's looking very solid. They're probably not going to be a lottery team this year, and so it'd convey. So, it makes a lot of sense doing that. But you have to do all this just to get it to work out. And you look right there, boom, Oklahoma City Thunder would have 12 standard contract players at the trade deadline. It would need to get to 14 for roster compliance. That's easy right there. You sign Carlson, all right, and you sign AJ Mitchell to a standard deal instead of his two-way contract. You reach the 14, and there's also some buyout guys out there right now, like a Torrey Craig or Chris Durant from the Bulls, who just cut those guys, released them. So there are guys out there that you can get to kind of match, I don't want to say match contracts, but to fill out the 15 roster spaces, or at least the 14. With this trade scenario, you just have to sign AJ Mitchell to a standard deal already. He's already on a two-way. You just got to sign him to a standard deal right there. And then with Carlson, you just sign him to a deal. We've run out of 10 days. He's not on any team right now. It wouldn't surprise me in the next coming days or so if they don't make a move at the deadline, if they sign Carlson to have him on the roster there, because he really impressed me in the time that he was getting on the court. He truly was. He looked like a great three-point threat, rebounding-wise, and rim protecting looked very solid to where, hey, this might be an actual guy that the Thunder can use in the regular season and try to carve out a role for his career to potentially stay in Oklahoma City. He looked a lot better than Ousmane Dieng, in my opinion. Now, Dieng had his moments as well, but overall, I think Carlson fits the mold of what OKC is looking for than Ousmane Dieng. And so that's where it's kind of getting like, look, he's probably going to get traded, whether that's for a first round or, a few second round picks or in another trade to go get another player. I think Ousmane Dieng is gone. And in any Kevin Durant trade, I think he's being sent there. Now, with the final trade package I put together, all right, this one, it's also absurd when you look at it because you have to match this large contract. Once again, the Thunder would only be getting Kevin Durant, whereas the Suns would be getting Lu Dort, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Nikola Topic, and the 2027 first-round pick from the Nuggets right there. Right there, Oklahoma City only has 11 players, so you have to sign Carlson, have to put AJ Mitchell on a standard deal instead of the two-way, and then you actually have to go after guys like Chris Durant and Torrey Craig that just got released, some buyout guys right there. But, just looking at what the Thunder would have to give up, also in this trade, Lu Dort, arguably your best defensive player on the team, you don't want to give him up, all right? Then you give up your two best players off the bench right now at the moment, all right? When Chet's healthy, it's either Hart or Cason Wallace coming off the bench, and then they'd probably become the best player off the bench over Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. But right now, those are your two best guys off the bench, giving them up. And a young guy, Nikola Topic, which the Thunder do not want to give up right now whatsoever because he has such a high ceiling. Projected to go number 1 overall before he got injured, before the 2024 draft, okay, before he tore his ACL. Like, you don't want to do that. He has such a high ceiling. I think he has starting potential for the Thunder and even has all-star potential in the NBA when you look at his skill set. The only question surrounding him, and we've always mentioned this, is his shot. With his ACL injury, all he can do is shoot the ball, so he's going to improve at that. And then the first-round pick, of course, as well. It's just no matter what, when you look at it for a Kevin Durant trade, even though he's such a great player, he's still a top 10 offensive player in the league and just a top 10 player in general in the NBA, all right? I get that. Any trade, though, is just blasphemous and ridiculous to kind of go after, all right? So to all the Thunder fans I've been seeing out there suggesting to go after him, telling Presti to pick up the phone and call about him, see what you can get, you have to understand you have to match contracts. I've seen people suggest Nikola Topic and like 4 first-round picks to get him. That's just not how it works. It's not. You have to match contracts. No matter what, you're going to have to include one of Lu Dort or Isaiah Hartenstein in a trade for Chet Holmgren. And then, of course, add on some other players to where it just doesn't make it worth it. All right? It just isn't worth it at that point. That's my whole point of going about how the Thunder need to trade away from trading for Kevin Durant and need to stick to some of these, I don't want to say smaller fish, but guys that fit the mold still. Like Cam Johnson, Bobby Portis, Colin Sexton, Chris Paul. All those guys are way cheaper. You can get them on easier contracts right there. Bobby Portis is making $14 million a year right now. You could do Kenrich Williams, Ousmane Dieng. That helps out match up contracts right there. $11 million to $14 million. You have the second apron. All right, that's only $3 million. It helps out right there. And then throw in a first-round pick. Boom, you can get Bobby Portis for sure off of that trade. Brooklyn Nets, you can still do like an Isaiah Joe, all right, and then an Ousmane Dieng and a first-round pick, boom, get Cameron Johnson. I would have tried to stay away from that and try to do it Kenrich Williams, Ousmane Dieng, and if we have to, trade Nikola Topic away if it means a championship and he stays here for a little bit less money. But there's just so many better trades out there than going for Kevin Durant that helps out the team in the long run. That's all I got for this video. Like I mentioned, all right, let me know, as always, let me know what you guys personally think about this trade because I just think it's horrible. The Thunder need to stay away from this whatsoever, all right? That's all I got. I'll see you guys in the next one.